Welcome to the Book of Light, the path, the end of suffering. Be your own healer. Study the Book of Light and heal yourself from suffering. In order to become your own healer, you should be able to define each term that you use. When you say you are suffering, are you really suffering? Or are you already in a process of healing? Book of Light teaches the disease is already the healing process. Now let us look at the word suffering. Book of Light teaches if you want something and you don't get it, you suffer. We go here to the core to define what is suffering. And if we don't do that, we cannot heal it. We can only, so to speak, deal with symptoms, and that's not enough, dear friends. I will not waste my time here with you, like so many do, showing you how to heal symptoms. No, we go to the core. We go to the core. Book of Light teaches suffering is impeded volition. Impeded volition. From that point of view, we get a disastrous definition of our life. Because the Book of Light teaches birth is suffering, to grow is suffering, to become old is suffering, disease is suffering, dying process is suffering. If you are united with somebody that you don't like or that you dislike, that is suffering. You suffer. Now maybe you are separated from something that you like or somebody. You suffer. You may not get what you desire, no matter what it is. You suffer. This is the definition of suffering. Therefore, and this is not a depressive definition, or it's just clearly defined. Everything that is in the world is suffering. Suffering. When does suffering arise? All activities of will are suffering. Everything is full of suffering. When does suffering arise? When something arises. When does suffering vanish? When it vanishes. And of course, the average man may revolt against these words. He may even think of them as perversion, sprung from world-sundered and world-estranged brooding, a perversion. Because the average man and woman may argue there's a lot of pleasure, lust, joy, family life, nature, art, everywhere. How can you dare to overlook all this? How can you shut your eyes against it? No. Not everything in life is suffering. And even suffering does not predominate, argues the average man and woman. Because in spite of suffering, maybe, which may exist, the world is beautiful. It is worth of being enjoyed. Dear friends, we are confronted with an argument that is quite powerful. And if that argument is not correct, then the so-called average man may have made a terrible mistake judging the content of life. to its actual value. Could it be? We are talking here about life's value, dear friends. You cannot answer that offhand simply by, how shall I name it, by pure perception. Everything is fixed and certain. We have to bring here a judgment. We have to collect all materials that are offered by perception, all concepts that use the activity of reason in order to answer the question, is life worth living? And are you strong enough to stand here, especially people who enjoy life so much? And I'm not desperate, I'm not depressed, nothing. On the contrary, I laugh always, or most of the time. I laugh at life. It's ridiculous. Huh? And believe me, I had everything. Fame, fortune, this and that. I'm even now at number 1 on the charts since 50 years. You look at the German charts, discotheque charts for the young people. Well, I'm happy, yes, but 30, 40 years ago, I was dependent on it. Now I don't care. I just do my contract with the record company and becomes number 1, so and so. But I'm not attached anymore to it. You better believe it, dear friends. Let us dare to go very, very deep. A thing that a man desires with such unexampled ardor as he does life must be desirable. Or? Yes or no? If somebody stands in front of you and says, I desire that so badly I would kill or die for it. Well, that's desirable, or maybe not. Maybe it is a gigantic paralogism. Because that man doesn't see further than his nose, the tip of his nose. Because he doesn't see what is coming at him. Let's take it, somebody who dies suddenly, sudden death. Short because he dies, said, I want to live, I want to live, I want to live. Go to a deathbed of a man who has been sick for years. And now he has a last torturing pain. He looks like maggots are bursting through his skull. Yet he's still breathing and still living. He says, I want to live. Take a mirror and hold it to him and say, you want this to live? Really? And he will say, yes, yes, please, please, I want to live. And everything that was his joy in life crashed down, crumbles down to nothing. Isn't it time? Well, for that man it may be too late. But isn't it time for us who maybe have not these problems, who can think straight, to think about that, about the true value of life and why we are here. The clinging to life. Everybody clings to life. And when life is taken away from him, he suffers. By the way, the clinging continues even when he dies. It survives, as the Book of Light teaches, in skandhas and permanent atoms. They regroup around a new fructified womb, a new sperm and an egg. And the being is torn back again into the uterus and grows inside with bigger and bigger and bursts through the female's frame. I could say, okay, that's beautiful. I go on living. You can say that. But then you should also live wisely, knowing that everything comes from the Spirit and goes to the Spirit. And if you continue to cling to any too much earthly desire, you will suffer in your next birth. You'll see. You'll see. We call that antagonism. Some people argue life is worth living. If it wouldn't be worth living, I would not crave for it so irresistibly. So don't talk to me. Life is worth living. Some say YOLO, you only live once or so. Even more so, life is living. I only live once. I don't care. Well, those people actually would be right if they could do anything that they want to survive until death, and if they kill 10,000 people a day. You could not judge them. Because there's only one life. When they're dead, they're dead. They're no responsible. Not responsible. No consequences. Book of Light is the book of consequences. Think about that. Those people who live and think like that show a lack of heedfulness, I should say. They block up their own way of understanding, and they are welcome here on the path, and they better listen to me. If they want to avoid further suffering. Pros and cons you would have to listen to judge as to the justification of this craving for life in you. Now I tell you something, a man who is lustful, is he the proper authority to judge a woman's beauty or ugliness? I say no. I say no. What else is important? We are now talking here about the end of suffering also, and of the judgment of life, if life is worth living or not. That's what we're talking about here. And I'm not talking suicide. You believe it. You better believe it. If you kill yourself, you come so back so quickly. You come back. You can even snap your finger. Sometimes. Because you interrupt the karmic process and you suffer on after-death planes. See you and hear you in part 24.